Good evening. You're watching the smoking section with Stephen Helfer. We are standing up for the rights of people to smoke or not smoke, but it is their decision, their personal decision, and they should not be subjected to coercion, coercive measures. And tonight, David Ajemian is on with me.
Hello.
Hi, David.
Glad to be here again.
David is a stalwart member of Cambridge Citizens for Smokers' Rights and
A regular contributor.
to this program.
Yes.
Fantastic. Every second Wednesday
Yes.
is our plan.
That sounds good.
Now, David, we were discussing snus, and I was mentioning to you that I think it really helps concentrate the mind. And that, would you agree with that? I mean, it helps. I think it's very helpful in many circumstances like that.
Well, it has kind of a sharp flavor to it.
Oh, well, it definitely has a sharp flavor. Yeah.
I mean,
You can hiccup with it if you.
you can feel a little bit of a sting almost, can't you?
No, not really.
Not a sting, but a kind of
Something along that line.
But you think it focuses you?
It helps. It helps a great deal. Yes, it helps a great deal. In my opinion. But you have to. It's like a lot of things. I think it's like I remember the first time I smoked marijuana. I got high, but I didn't know I was high.
Mm-hmm.
That happens to people, and you have to before you can. Let's say before you. Well, it's the same with tobacco, with a cigar, for example. You know, men particularly like cigars because it puts them in a very, very kind of centered feeling, very relaxed. They can, almost like they can disassociate with things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think snus is something in that.
More than a cigarette.
For some reason, yes. I mean, but you haven't used a lot of snus, so I'm not sure you're aware.
It's not
of it.
It's not like Skull, is it?
Well, I think it's similar.
Remember that product?
I don't know what Skull is.
I remember they used to say just a pinch between your cheek and your gum.
It's certainly very similar to it.
It was something that baseball players used to.
Well, maybe it's a form of chewing tobacco. It's called. Well, wait a second. I mean, they haven't promoted. I don't know about that because they haven't promoted tobacco on television.
This was years ago. I mean.
Well, I mean, they haven't promoted tobacco on television since the early '70s.
Even chewing tobacco?
I certainly don't think so.
Okay, well, I think you'd be familiar with this product.
Oh yeah, no, I'm familiar with it, but I don't really
It's
know.
loose. It's not. Snus is a packet.
Yeah. Well, this is. I mean, snus is a packet. I don't know what Skull is, but it's a form of what's called smokeless tobacco.
Okay, it does fall into that.
And
Yeah.
for example, there is one public health personality by the name of Brad Rodew, who is a public health professor, and he is very, very enthusiastic about smokeless tobacco because he thinks it's extremely, I mean, very, very, very much healthier than cigarettes.
Well, I never did understand the appeal of those big wads of chewing tobacco, like the ball players use. I think I tried it once. It was, and that was something that I did not take to.
But when I was about 8 years old, my father bought me some chewing tobacco.
It comes like in big leaves.
Yeah, you chew it off.
I mean, I've forgotten. Does it have a kind of a sweet flavor to it, or is it bitter?
Well, I think it can. I think it can. There's one brand that, we should endorse, and that's Red Man.
Red Man, I remember that. Yes.
And that we should endorse that particular brand on our program. In the spirit of
is that sold at
political incorrectness.
I guess so. Okay.
Red Man chewing tobacco.
Right. I'm not sure if they banned that. Did they ban that for baseball players along with?
Let me think. I'm trying to think that.
It was a controversy a few years ago.
Let me just think. Boston banned the use of any tobacco product for anybody be they employee or baseball player or spectator, on any of its sports fields or stadiums,
Okay.
including Fenway Park. So ball players are prohibited from chewing tobacco, or even, I think you're even prohibited from possessing tobacco. I'm not sure about that, but at Fenway Park.
You're not sure about other locales in America?
Oh, it depends on the city. It's not, I don't think there's any state that has done that, and certainly the federal government. I don't even know if the federal government has jurisdiction over it. I don't know if the federal government could.
Well, you know, it makes you wonder if it helped the athletes in their performance.
Oh, it's no question that it helps the athletes in their
Really?
performance. Oh yeah, I mean,
I mean, it wasn't just a. I used to think of it as something they did as a kind of a gimmick, maybe, or just to
No,
you know,
it's not a
be
gimmick.
one of the guys, you know.
It's not a gimmick. It's not a gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, like Rod Carew, you know Rod Carew?
Mm-hmm.
He's
Great
a very
hitter.
great hitter. Well, I mean, in his book, he talked about how, for example, when he would practice, especially when it was, I guess, I don't know what, whatever they call it on the, during the off season down in Florida, he would get really, really thirsty all the time, and he would end up drinking innumerable Coca-Colas, and then his stomach would feel so bloated he could almost not play. But then when he started chewing tobacco, then his mouth stayed moist, and he didn't get thirsty, and he didn't gain weight, and he didn't have his stomach bloat like that.
Well, I think snus is something that I would try every now and then. Not.
Well, I think it's helpful. Like, for example, if you go into a meeting, do you know what I mean by dissociate? Like, for example, you can watch things unfold around you, and you find you can kind of. It's almost meditative. You don't get sucked in. Like, I find that with snus, when I have snus in my mouth, I'm less apt to say things I will be sorry for. I mean, that's tobacco in general. Tobacco lets you kind of be somewhat, well, it helps, I think, to be somewhat dispassionate.
Well, you mentioned that on the show last week. You said that it's been used as sort of a something that people used for peaceful discussions.
Oh, well, I mean, the American Indian, yes, that's one of the reasons, that is the reason that the American Indian used revered tobacco for use in the peace pipe. And I mean, and I think that's, as I've said over and over and over again, this idea of the smoky backroom deals that were made by politicians and government leaders in our country in days of yore, are no longer possible these days because no one's smoking.
Well, I think your point last week was it's taken on a different. People have a different attitude about tobacco now.
Oh God, yeah.
They don't associate it with good vibes.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shame. It's a sad commentary on our times.
Well.
Actually, I took that line from a book, but anyway, sad commentary on our times. But, there is a book by a man named Compton Mackenzie, and I keep meaning to order it and he just extols tobacco to the hilt, as it were. And he thinks that Ulysses S. Grant was able to defeat Robert E. Lee because Grant was a cigar smoker and Lee was a non-smoker.
Churchill maybe too, right?
Well, Churchill, Adolf Hitler, Churchill is supposed to have smoked 300,000 cigars in his life. And Adolf Hitler, who didn't smoke and didn't drink and didn't eat meat, he was a basket case. He became a basket case pretty quickly, from what I've read.
Well,
He couldn't handle stress, for one thing.
and didn't you say something about how cigarettes, something about Mexico or something, or that cigarettes weren't very popular?
Oh, no, they're very popular in Mexico around 1850 because I looked at Ulysses S. Grant's autobiography, or his memoirs, actually. It's not his autobiography, it's his memoirs.
Mm-hmm.
And he was astounded how much women, men, and children smoked in Mexico, because he was down there around 1850.
You remember what Abraham Lincoln said about Grant and his drinking?
Yes, I do. I remember that.
I think he said, if I could get the same performance out of my other generals and give them all a bottle of whiskey or something.
Yeah, someone had complained about Grant, and there's a new biography about Grant right now that I was listening to the author.
I've seen that in the stores.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but yeah, and you made the. You see, I did do a little brushing up before I came.
Oh, you watched my show last week?
Yeah, and you were talking about how tobacco is not an intoxicating.
Oh, well, that brings us. This brings me full circle to. You said that you found that snus gives you a little buzz.
A little bit.
I don't think it does. No, I don't think tobacco can ever give anybody a buzz.
Maybe that's not the best word.
Well, I mean, let's get a good word.
You're talking more maybe a focus.
Yeah, well, that's very different than a buzz.
Yeah.
I mean, a buzz is something people get from alcohol and they get from marijuana. I don't think you get that from tobacco. At all. I mean, sometimes if you haven't had a cigarette in a long time, or if you're, the first time you smoke, you might get a little bit dizzy or a little bit nauseous. But you're not going to get what I call a buzz, and I don't even like the term buzz, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm buzzed, man.
Right.
I mean, I guess it's a term that was not around when I was at in my youth, I guess you might say. I don't think. Catch a buzz, man.
Right.
We used to term it high. I mean, I just alcohol. Well, I mean, anyway. So that. But I mean, that's. I think. So I don't know. I think snus is very handy, and it's good, particularly because you can't smoke these days in most, in interior places. And I know that, for example, when I go down and spend Christmas with my niece and my grandnephew and my sister, I can't smoke in the house. Unfortunately, and. It will be there will be moments there when things will be tense. And I'm going to try to remember to always have snus in my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Because that way I won't say something that I'm sorry about having said.
Well, I also read that article that we posted on our website from NPR about the social programming of tobacco and how they, what was the article saying that, well, they were questioning whether the banning of smoking in workplaces was leading to people smoking
more at home.
And I guess they were saying that the studies have said that that's not the case.
These studies that they talk about it's almost like all these studies are based on self-reporting. Were you exposed to a lot of secondhand smoke when you grew up? How much secondhand smoke? How much did your father smoke? How much did your mother smoke? How much did you smoke? I mean, people don't really remember any of that. It's all, the data is very, very, that's called epidemiology, and it's a very crude and inexact science, according to a professor of epidemiology at Harvard Medical School. Very crude and inexact. So, this stuff is all kind of very speculative, and then of course and in that article it was really silly because they said, for example, smoking is associated with increased rates of asthma, which is categorically false.
And lower birth weight in infants. Yeah.
They're talking about secondhand smoke, but I mean, well, let's just take asthma for example. I mean, asthma rates have increased as exposure to secondhand smoke has decreased. Asthma rates have increased as active smoking has increased. If you go on to any of the government medical, like the CDC or the NIH or any of these, they will categorically say that the cause of asthma is unknown. It's not associated with increased smoking. You can have an asthma attack if you're exposed to secondhand smoke,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're exposed to the cold, or if you're exposed to pollen, or dust, or rodents, or cats, or if you're anxious, all these things. But smoking, it's just that article is just not very good, really. I mean, if you deconstruct it with any kind of care. Listen, you want to go to the Smoker of the Week?
All right.
Shall we go to the Smoker of the Week? Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. Okay. I have to, it's like every week I have to reinvent the wheel here. You know what I mean? I don't know. Do I have a Smoker of the Week? Yes, I do. I did. But I didn't pull up my Smoker of the Week. Let's just see. Smoking section, Steve. No, let's forget it. Let's forget it because I didn't put my
Oh.
I didn't put my thumb drive in.
Okay.
I didn't insert my
No
thumb.
calls.
No calls yet. We don't have Roger. When I had Roger Nicholson on the call, the phone was ringing off the hook.
Really?
Yeah, it was ringing off the hook.
Okay. Well, I'm not.
And the
as,
profanity was,
oh,
just you could cut the profanity with a knife.
And you said that he was well, why did you refer to him as a self-loathing smoker? Was that
Well,
just a joke?
he took umbrage at that. Made me apologize for saying that because he's not self-loathing, and which I did. I'm not going to call him self-loather if he doesn't want. Because he smokes, yet he thinks it's the worst thing in the world.
Oh.
Well. Which is, I think on some level, if someone is smoking and they continue to smoke, that even if they say they think it's really terrible, that really, on some level of their consciousness, they know that they derive benefit from it. Okay, so did you have something to bring up tonight?
Well, let's see. I'm just. I noticed that there was an article about how Austria has made a deal about how people can now smoke in restaurants.
They've actually moved back on that.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you see that?
That was a Reuters article that's on our website. Or
Well, that
on
certainly
our Facebook page.
that certainly sounds like good news, right?
Yeah. It was a deal between the two political parties, they said, to, I think, rescind a law that had been passed recently.
Yeah.
So,
Well, let's talk about that. But let's pull up someone to, just kind of take a little break where we can go to sleep here, and let's get our smoke. I wasn't really going to use this as a Smoker of the Week, but I think I will anyway. Now, why is this only in half? Interesting. It's only going to be half the screen, which is unfortunate, but do you know who that is? It's a self-portrait.
Looks like Albert Einstein.
No, it's not Albert Einstein. It is Kurt Vonnegut.
Oh.
And that's a self-portrait that he did, which I think is pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And Kurt Vonnegut liked to smoke Pall Malls. Pall Malls, non-filter Pall Malls.
Mm-hmm.
And he jokingly, because he was in his 80s at the point, or he said he was going to sue the tobacco companies because every package of Pall Malls he bought, it said that they were going to kill him and he wasn't dead. So he figured he was going to sue the tobacco companies.
Well, for the tobacco companies have have not been hoodwinking people, as you also mentioned last week.
Oh, yeah.
That was another big point you were saying. That.
Well, he really, I mean, Kurt Vonnegut, you presumably have read some of his books, or at least one of his books, I hope, or not.
A long time ago, I probably did. Yeah.
Yeah, he was very, very popular.
Did he do Catch 20? No, that was no, Slaughterhouse 5.
Yes, I think so. I mean, he wrote. I mean, I think he was more popular in the '60s and the '70s, I guess, than, and he lived to be 84 years old, which of course is not, a great advanced age, but certainly, for those people who say tobacco is lethal, I mean, he was pretty active up until the age of 84, and a great producer of, literature, not, might not be considered the greatest literature now, but, basically, and he couldn't sue the tobacco companies for that anyway, because they weren't the ones that, they were forced to put those so-called warning labels on them. So that's very interesting in Austria. I mean, obviously, to me it seems, well, the thing is, if you own a restaurant and you pay taxes, salaries, the heating, the air conditioning, and you pay taxes, shouldn't it be up to the owner to decide whether or not he or she wants to allow his customers to smoke?
Well, especially you've got that cafe culture over there too, right? And people
in Vienna, especially.
Yes, people enjoy having their coffee, and I was really very surprised that Europe changed its whole attitude to smoking. So
well, that's where you first became.
Yeah, when I would visit France in the '70s and '80s, it seemed that everybody was. I mean, it was just such a part of the culture,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like they've taken a stricter attitude even in America.
Well, they have to some degree because their constitution is not as strong as our constitution. Certainly not in terms of the First Amendment.
You mean with the EU? You mean the European Union or the?
Well, no, but I mean I think the French constitution grants to the government more power than the United States Constitution grants to our government. So that's one. I mean, for example, our courts decided that our government cannot force cigarette companies to carry what would be called anti-smoking propaganda on their packages.
Plain packaging? Is that what it's called in Europe?
It's not really. It's called plain packaging, but it isn't plain packaging.
Which is a misnomer, really, isn't it? I mean, it's
because it has these horribly graphic photos of people who, supposedly would get sick from cigarette smoking, but we don't know that they. First of all, we don't know how doctored these photos are. I mean, one of the photos that I find completely ridiculous is this photo of this person with like green teeth, and they're all stubs, and they're all, I mean, I don't think smoking affects tooth. Plenty of people smoke all their lives and have perfectly fine teeth until they're late, until they die, basically.
Well, I would think that if that went into effect here in America, that would discourage a lot of
people. Well, it doesn't seem to have affected smoking rates in countries in which it has.
Really?
Oh, that's right.
Oh.
Yeah. Not according to, but so as I've said before on the program, our government says, yes, the government can force a company to have information on it, like warning label. Like this product might cause this, might cause that. But
is that still on packages in here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually on the bottom of the package.
Okay.
But in other words, our courts have held that something that's meant to elicit an emotional response, the government cannot compel a business to put that on its package. Like you could compel Coca-Cola to say, drinking this soda in excess might make you gain weight. But it can't, and at the same time have a picture of this frightfully obese person, with a missing leg because of diabetes and all that type of stuff, which is meant to elicit an emotional response.
That's a big difference.
A big difference, yeah. But in France, you don't have that, and that's why in France you can be arrested for denying the Holocaust, for example.
Right.
But you cannot be arrested for denying the Holocaust here in the United States. But it does seem like, more conservative groups seem to favor individual liberty, and that's why I think in Austria this has something to do with a certain conservatism. And that's good news, right?
It is, yeah. I was very interested in that development.
Well, listen, David, we're at the point, I don't know if you've got your eye on that number there. We only have 10 seconds left.
10 seconds.
Thanks for watching the smoking section. See you next week.